Democracy. Don't give up on something we've never tried. Hello, friends. Welcome to Surviving Tomorrow, a podcast, newsletter, and publication about navigating life in the age of democratic destruction, ecological collapse, and economic irrelevance. I'm your host, Jared Brock. Today, we're going to be talking briefly about democracy. Lately in the news and in culture, there's been a lot of discussion about the merits of socialism and communism, the idea of the government owning everything or the government controlling everything. And it's really interesting that these philosophies are becoming so popular because they have a horrible track record, and also everyone on the left and the right agrees on one thing, that government is horrible and it sucks and it's terrible at its job. And yet for some reason, half the population thinks the best thing to do is to vest all power or all ownership in the government. I'm by no means a far left or far right person. I'm quite anti-politician and certainly anti-party. I think there's a middle way. I think there's got to be a middle way between these two extremes. And so this is a cry for democracy, I suppose. There's a lot of people who are inadvertently turning towards fascism right now, and that's because they've never had a voice. So this is something I wrote recently when thinking about perhaps maybe trying democracy for a change. Athens wasn't a democracy. Women couldn't vote. Slaves couldn't vote. Metoikoi, which were permanent residents, they couldn't vote. Only male citizens over the age of 20 could vote. 10 to 20%, max 30% of the population by most estimates. It was a step in the right direction, away from one-man tyranny and the ignoble nobility, but it certainly wasn't democracy. In the same way, America isn't a democracy. It wasn't a democracy when it considered blacks to be 3/5 of a white person. It wasn't a democracy when it didn't let the female half vote. It's not a democracy when you look at all of the ongoing voter disenfranchisement. Looking at you, Georgia. It's not a democracy while the Electoral College exists. It's not a democracy when corporations are considered people. It's not a democracy when folks like Jeff Bezos can set new lobbying records by flooding Congress with money and muscle, or when one person like Mitch McConnell can block all legislation he doesn't like for several years. Ironically, we're nearing a situation where fewer men will rule America than ruled in ancient Athens. I am of the opinion that democracy is far too precious a thing to entrust to politicians. They're easily purchased with campaign donations, board seats, and stock options once they retire. Americans call it lobbying. Other countries call it bribery. While some versions are certainly better than others, in any form of so-called representational government, whether it's electoral college, first past the post, proportional, rank balloting, liquidating, in all these versions, people lose their voice. We need direct democracy. One voice, one vote. Kids included, with their vote delegated to their legal guardian until they reach voting age. A rule of all the people, by all the people, for all the people, with a strong judiciary to protect the individual and a swift administration comprised of real experts to execute the will of the people. We need to be caring about the individual and the commons. And I know what you're thinking. It's hard to keep up with all the issues, but the reality is it's actually not. It would be easy if kids were well educated. It would be far easier if false news media was held accountable. It would be easy if we focused on the most important issues and sidelined all the private interest distractions. And we can make it significantly easier by having one democracy day each quarter where everyone gets a day off to learn about the issues and then votes via blockchain technology securely from the comfort of their own homes. We can call it an investment in the survival of our species. Sure, it's slightly more complicated, but who cares? Teslas are better than Model Ts. We've never tried democracy because it terrifies the hyper elites. It also terrifies us commoners. We humans, we are incredibly risk averse. We hate change. We especially hate the unknown. But as our population explodes, the environment collapses, and the economy consolidates into a few dozen grasping hands, we're heading for a world of utter chaos or total tyranny if we go back to a system that's already failed. We tried fascism. It killed 6 million Jews and 5 million others. We tried communism. It killed 38 million Chinese people. We tried socialism. It killed 67 million Russians. We tried dictatorship. Queen Elizabeth II still lives in a castle once occupied by a war criminal ancestor who murdered 57,000 people during his reign. We tried, quote unquote, free market capitalism. It enslaved 17 million Africans, collapsed the planet, and is currently driving 1 million people per day into slums. When you put elites in charge of education, they cripple education. Our kids don't learn history. Now pair that with a deep and rightful distaste for corporatocracy masquerading as democracy, and it's no wonder that nearly 50% of millennials and Gen Z take a favorable view of socialism. They've never had a voice. And if we're not careful, they never will. I say we give real democracy a shot. It's certainly a better option than anything else we've ever tried. If you want to help grow the Surviving Tomorrow community, please share this podcast with a friend, leave a 5-star review, share on social media, follow, subscribe, etc., etc. You know what to do to spread the love. We are listener supported, so if you'd like to become a patron, please visit jaredbrock.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.